All right, everybody, welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
So today we are diving into the world of robotic process automation.
RPA.
RPA. But, not just the cool stuff that everyone gets excited about.
Right.
Like how it can make things faster, more efficient.
Absolutely.
We're kind of looking at the less glamorous side.
With the side that makes sure you don't get in trouble.
Exactly. Compliance.
Mm-hmm.
And, luckily we found this super helpful article all about it, breaking down what they call the compliance pillars for making sure your RPA implementation doesn't
blow up in your face.
Yeah, it doesn't backfire, basically. It's kind of like, you wouldn't build a house without a solid foundation, right?
That's a great analogy. And RPA is powerful stuff. It can really transform how your business operates. But if you don't have that strong compliance foundation in place, it's just a matter of time before things start to crumble.
Yeah, and it's not just about, avoiding fines or anything like that, though that's definitely a part of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But it's also about, protecting your business, protecting your data, and even your reputation.
It's all connected, really.
That's right. Speaking of reputation, I'm curious, have you come across any examples where a company kind of botched their RPA implementation, maybe skipped a compliance pillar or two, and ended up with some not so great consequences?
Oh, there are definitely some cautionary tales out there. One that comes to mind is this financial institution that tried to automate their loan approval process, speed things up, make it more efficient for everyone. But they didn't properly vet the system for compliance, and guess what? It ended up discriminating against certain applicants.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a huge mess. Lawsuits, a PR nightmare, you name it. Their reputation took a major hit, and it all boiled down to overlooking that crucial compliance piece. Talk about a pillar collapse.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful example of what's at stake when we talk about RPA compliance.
For sure.
And luckily, this article that we're looking at breaks it down into these 5 key pillars. They call them process management, process development, backup, platform, and data security.
The 5 pillars of wisdom, you might say.
Exactly. So starting off with process management, what exactly does good process management actually look like in the world of, software robots and automated tasks and all that?
So it's all about checks and balances, even with robots. Let's say you have an automated system for processing invoices. Good process management means that the system isn't just blindly processing every invoice that comes its way. You need to have checks built in to catch things like duplicate invoices, mismatched payment amounts, or even potentially fraudulent invoices.
Oh, so it's like having a, second pair of eyes on everything.
Exactly. Like a hawk-eyed supervisor watching over the robots, making sure they're not making costly mistakes.
I like it. So it's not a, set it and forget it kind of thing with RPA. You really need that continuous oversight.
100%. And that actually segues nicely into our next pillar, process development.
Oh, perfect. So how do you actually build compliant processes from the very beginning? Like, what does that look like in practice?
Okay, let's stick with our invoice example. Imagine you want to expand your business internationally. Sounds great, right? More customers, more revenue. But during the development phase of your automated invoice system, you need to account for all sorts of new complexities. Different currencies, varying tax regulations across different countries, and even data privacy laws like GDPR. If you don't bake those considerations in from day one, it'll be a scramble to catch up later.
And a potential compliance nightmare, I'm guessing.
Exactly. And those are just a few examples. The point is, building in compliance from the start is way more efficient than trying to retrofit it later.
Absolutely. Now, backup. Seems pretty straightforward, but I have a feeling it's often overlooked. What are the consequences of, skimping on the backup pillar?
Well, think about all the data your automated systems are handling, right? Customer information, financial records, internal documents, the list goes on. If your server crashes, a natural disaster hits your data center, or even if there's a ransomware attack and you don't have a robust backup system in place, well, you could lose everything.
Oh, wow.
It's not just about operational downtime. Losing that data could also lead to legal penalties, especially in industries with strict data retention laws.
So backup suddenly doesn't seem so boring anymore.
Definitely not. It's mission critical.
All right, so then we have this platform pillar. I'm assuming that refers to the actual software, like the core system that runs the whole RPA show.
Exactly. It's the foundation of your entire RPA infrastructure. Think of it as the operating system of your computer. You wouldn't use an outdated OS with known security holes, would you? Same goes for your RPA platform.
So what should people be looking for in a platform, like from a compliance perspective? Are there any red flags that scream security nightmare?
Great question. First off, Be wary of vendors who are vague about their security measures or don't have a clear roadmap for updates and patches. If they can't or won't answer detailed questions about their security practices, that's a huge red flag. Also, make sure their platform is compatible with your industry's specific compliance requirements.
So do your research, basically. Don't just jump at the shiniest, most feature-packed platform.
Precisely. Look under the hood and make sure the security engine is solid.
Good advice. And finally, we have data security, which, it kind of seems self-explanatory, but why is it considered the most crucial pillar in this whole setup?
Because it's the linchpin that holds everything together. Think about it this way. You could have fantastic process management, a flawlessly developed system, and backups galore. But if your data itself is vulnerable to breaches or misuse, it all crumbles. It's like building a fortress with impenetrable walls but leaving the gate wide open.
Makes sense. So how can companies make sure that their RPA data is, locked down tight? What are the key things to consider?
It's all about layers of protection. First, you need strong encryption. That means scrambling the data so it's unreadable without the proper keys. Then, you need strict access controls, so only authorized employees can access certain data sets. And finally, regular security audits are essential. You're basically hiring ethical hackers to try and break into your system to expose vulnerabilities.
So it's not just about technology. It's about processes and people, too.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach to data security.
All right, so all of this is super important stuff, but I want to bring it back to our listener for a second. They might be thinking, okay, I get it, compliance is important, but how does all of this apply to my work? Like, what should I actually be doing differently?
That's a great point. Think about the processes you handle every day in your job. Are there any repetitive tasks that could potentially be automated? Before you jump into RPA, take a step back and consider these 5 compliance pillars.
And I guess it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of, new technology and all that and just kind of forget about the safeguards.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that happen a lot.
I actually have a funny story. I was using this website once that had a fancy AI chatbot for their customer support.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
And it was supposed to be super helpful, but it kept giving me wrong information. And then it ended up locking me out of my account.
Ouch. That's frustrating.
It was a total mess.
Yeah.
And I ended up having to call customer service anyway, which completely defeated the whole purpose of having the chatbot in the first place.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how neglecting those compliance pillars can totally backfire.
So the takeaway here is before you even start looking at RPA software, do your research.
Exactly. Figure out what compliance standards are relevant to your industry. Talk to your IT team about data security best practices. And don't be shy about asking vendors some tough questions about their platform security features.
Absolutely. RPA is a powerful tool, but like any powerful tool, it needs to be handled with care.
Well said. If you build in compliance from day one, you can harness that power safely and effectively.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, if you ever need a deep dive into another topic, you know where to find us.